like a straight ashi.
Circle up.
Yeah. Just gonna start in like a regular ashi grounding day. So you got some mechanics on both sides of an outside door. Then we'll kind of progress from there. But the thing about any type of heel hook you need to understand is that you have to create opposing pressures on the leg to really get good breaks. And like the most fundamental way that you can do this, like when you teach it, just kind of when we do this, we gotta have a way to ensure that the knee can't rotate either direction. And when we can ensure that, then we can just kind of bridge through the side of the knee. And so when I'm looking to do an outside heel hook, and I'm in an ashigarami where I'm like laying on top of the foot, there's definitely a couple different scenarios of like how we're breaking the leg and all heel hooks outside and inside. But basically you separate it between like, am I laying on the foot or is the foot on top of my body? And the best like, the best luxury we have when we're looking at leg locks is situations when we're laying on top of the foot and we can use our body weight as a mechanic to pin his toes to the mat. Right? That creates leverage and torque in his leg to keep it turned one way. Like if I was in a regular ashigarami like this, what I would do is I would take the pad of his foot flat into my armpit like this. And now I'm going to use that exact part of my body on my rib cage to lay on the mat and pin his toes. Just going to take my rib cage and lay it directly on top of his toes, like this. And now when my body weight lays over the top of the toes, keeps his foot into the mat and it rotates his knee this direction in. And I have some other type of mechanic depending on what kind of ashigarami I'm in. Right now this would just be what it's called my leading structure. We have other situations where I can pull my leg out and go outside stuff. But this is just something that leans against it and makes sure that it won't rotate back the other direction. My pin rotates it this way, and this pushes it back the other direction. So now I have what I was talking about. I have opposing pressures on his leg that ensure that his knee can't rotate either direction. When you create that scenario, now I can simply just bridge through the side of his knee. I don't even have like a bite on his heel. I don't have to put it behind me. I'm just laying on the toes. I'm stopping to stop it from rotating the other way. With my legs, flip the bridge. You're gonna get a pretty easy break with that. And this is a luxury to be able to have because what I'm realistically what I'm doing is I'm laying his Achilles on top of my wrist right here and then levering his toes down to the mat like this. That's a luxury we don't have when his foot rests on top of my body. Right? So if I'm in a situation where I'm here and his foot is now on top of my body, to be able to create the same amount of torque on his leg as I would by levering it over my wrist and using my body weight on top of it, I have to rotate really hard. I have to rotate really far to create that same amount of torque. But when I'm in a scenario like this, I don't really have to rotate. What I'm getting at is that the problem in being able to finish a lot of outside hooks at the highest level is that problem right there, is that I have to rotate to get the finish, especially in situations where you're reaping. If I have a reaping hook right here, I'm supposed to grab his heel to be able to get the torque I need to break the leg here. I'm going to have to rotate really far this way. When I rotate really far this way, that opens up his avenue of escapes. Right? Because all he's going to have to do is start heisting out and trying to get his knee onto the mat. And I'm basically like forcing him in that same direction. So this is why you see at a high level and any level really when people start going for outside hooks and they start reaping and stuff, what happens, they just roll and eventually the knee line's free. And then look at solving these problems later. Just kind of diving into like where we're going. So for now, I really just want you guys to kind of get to this regular ashigarami position and learn how to lever his toes over your wrist. Right, your wrist is the fulcrum. Set a fulcrum, right, and then my body weight lays on the toes and pins his leg to the mat. Right, now I can just simply pinch my legs and bridge through the side of his knee. How that would look like if I was just here and say he was kind of like hiding his heel underneath me and he's like sitting on his hip. Simply just kind of put my elbow on top of his foot and grab his Achilles and just pull his heel out and place my wrist on it. Right? And now what I have to do is I have to make sure that my weight is actually laying on his toes. Check out now, all my weight is kind of going to his feet. And how we start to do that is simply just by stacking my shoulders on top of you. So you find yourself in scenarios and you're going to hit this outside heel, your body's on top of it. And my shoulder, you see how far my shoulder is this direction? If I simply just come back and I just square my shoulders up like this, now he'll tell you that all my weight like went to his toes. And now I'm successfully creating that mechanic of levering his toes over the fulcrum with my body weight. I need my body weight to lay back here. So one of the most common mistakes you see in this outside heel when people get the pin right here is that they get this bite, no matter how good it is, if it's flush in the armpit or whatever, but they're laying on top of the heel and not the toes, right? He'll tell you that most of my weight is like right on top of his ankle and his heel at the moment. But if I make this simple adjustment here, now I've created all that torque on the leg of levering his toes. So now I have one mechanic that rotates his knee into me and ensures that it won't rotate back that way. And now what we call a leaning structure right here just pinches over the top of it and rotates it back the other way, right? Now his knee can't rotate either direction. When I simply just stuck the bridge into the side of the knee, get really easy taps.
That's why I can't. I think this is exact.
No,
I've seen you do that.
I didn't have your foot.
Foot.
It came off the mat. And I was going to switch my grip, which we'll talk about later. But no, I didn't have you come in the mat. And again, this is a luxury in Jiu Jitsu because we have gravity on our side that allows us to create this mechanic of having a fulcrum right here and levering his toes this way. This is one of the opposing pressures that you need to break the leg. Right? And I don't have to sacrifice avenues of escape for him by rotating. Right? If at any point I just get a bite like this and I'm like, I start doing this kind of stuff to try and create the torque while rotating, this opens up the avenues of escape. Right? So if you can understand that this being a luxury, just using this leveraging mechanic right here to rotate his knee in, and it's something that ensures that it can't rotate back the other direction, or maybe even in a better scenario, something that actually rotates it back in the other direction, something you can lever over. Here I can't. If I'm in a straight ashi, this just kind of pinches. It doesn't help me rotate as much, but if I can lever over the side of his hip, now watch how I can rotate his leg back the other way, right? These are gonna be the strongest breaking scenarios in any heel hook that you can get into is when I have direct opposing pressures with my pinning mechanic and my leverage and one of my feet mechanics, right? And another good example of that would be the 411, right? This is going to be your strongest break in an inside heel hook because why? My leveraging mechanic, my wrist is the fulcrum, my body weight lays over the top of the toes and turns his knee into me. Now, what we call a wedging hook right here, and I'll dive much deeper into kind of giving all these terms and stuff to you guys here in a bit. What we call this a wedging hook, I can leverage and turn his knee back the other direction with that hook, all right? So this is going to be one of the strongest positions for your inside heel hook as opposed to this, right? Because then again, we're looking at a scenario where this is really just a leaning structure and it's not a wedging hook. It simply just kind of pinches. This won't help rotate his knee back the other way. The benefit of these kind of scenarios though, think of the 50-50 as very similar to the outside heel hook. My inside leg right here really helps expose the heel, but it doesn't help break. Right? This isn't very strong at turning his knee back the other direction. The 411 is. The 50-50 isn't. The 411 isn't as good as exposing the heel either, right? Because now my inside mechanic that would help me expose the heel is just a leaning structure. It's just something that pinches. So if he tries to hide his heel from me here, I'm not super strong in turning his heel back towards me. When I'm in a 50-50 though, he tries to hide his heel from me, right? And I'll get deeper into that here in a little bit. But again, just start with, you can do the outside heel hook and the inside heel hook. So you can do just like a regular like straight ashi and you can do a 411 if you want. Doesn't really matter to me. But play with this idea of creating a fulcrum and using your body weight to pin his toes to the mat. And again, the biggest mistake I see anybody make when they
try these kind of things, is having your shoulders kind of slouched over, right? If you think about like always keeping your shoulders stacked over the top of each other, now you're distributing your weight in the right area on the foot to create that leverage. And honestly, the best way to figure out how to distribute your weight exactly where you want it is to like get on a foam roller and learn how to use a foam roller. Because like you say you have a bad knot or something, and you're really trying to put as much pressure in that one area as you can. It's the same idea. It should actually kind of hurt me really good. Like I'm relatively skinny, and my rib cage like sticks out up here. So like the bones of my rib cage are sitting on top of this like his bony foot right here. And it kind of hurts my rib cage a tad bit to put all of my weight back into his toes right there. It's gonna hurt a little bit. You're gonna have to go a little bit like callus or something right there. But this is one of the best luxuries we have when it comes to leg locks is using this mechanic right here, pinning his toes to the floor. Now when he tries to move and go anywhere, it's just like I don't really have to do much of anything but just start bridging. Right? That makes sense? Like any like double outside or no speed on them at all. That's have an inside foot and an outside foot. We call this one just a wrapping hook, the outside leg, right? The one that wraps out and around. And this is a leaning structure, right? What I have to do is I have to create a situation where he can't escape in any direction, right? And there's 4 avenues of escape for him. Goes up, goes back, goes that way, and goes that way. Right? And again, I'm creating some opposing pressures on his leg to make this happen. There's a couple things I'm doing here. I'm taking my knee and I'm pressing it into his hip bone, covering my own foot. If you make the mistake of pulling this foot to the same side leg, I can't cover my foot, right? And I can't press on his hip. So now he has 2 avenues of escape. He can push my foot off of his hip and start going one way, but more importantly, he can just stand up if he wants to because nothing's pressing his hip down and into the mat. If I take my foot and I just simply bring it to the other leg and put it behind this leg right here, now I can point my knee over my own foot and through his hip bone. This keeps him pressed down to the mat, like this. And now when I pinch my knees together, and wrap his leg and hook it, it shuts down all of his avenues of escape, except for being able to like heist. And how we stop that is simply just like by webbing something in between the mat, between his foot and the mat, which could be like my wrist, it could be my elbow, it could be anything simple like that. But for now, just literally just tuck my elbow underneath his leg like this. All right, so now when he tries to his 4 avenues of escape are going to be in, so when he tries to come into me, I have something stopping him. When he tries to pull away from me, I have something wrapped around him and pulling him to me. When he tries to rotate that way, try to rotate that way. Try to rotate that way. Right, he has no avenue of escape. Try to come up into me and like take your foot up off the mat and heist. Really difficult. Right, so make sure you're trying to like always apply these mechanics like when we're in this straight Ashi scenario. And there's obviously there's so many different positions and different ways to like pin people, but this is the most standard and the most basic. If you can't keep somebody pinned here and you can't keep them from taking the foot off of the hip, it's gonna be really difficult to make anything happen. Does that make sense? Just apply that to what you guys are already doing. I'm gonna let you guys drill that for just a little bit longer and then we'll move on.
Donna here talks about like the knee line. Is it for you? Do you have like a preferred place where you want the knee line, like, or not really? Just have it.
I just need to be as deep as I possibly can.
Okay. So the deeper the better.
For sure. I was seeing a lot of stuff like.
Yeah, some people need to have the knee line. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it's just a very subtle adjustment. It's like when you're attacking the legs and trying to get in on somebody, it's like I've got to make connection under their leg with my hips. I've got to get in deep enough to where my hips are up under the bottom of his thigh. Right? Now I can wrap and put on his hip. I can point my knee towards his hip as well. That make sense? Yeah. All right, cool. 1, 2, 3. It doesn't offer all these avenues of escape. And you don't have to do
much rotation into it. But this you do. This one's basically purely like rotation. I don't have a good way to turn his knee back the other direction when I'm in a read. I can simply just have what we call a leaning structure to just lean against it and make sure it can't rotate back that way. But when we do this, we have two mechanics here. One, the leaning structure, and two, the wedging hook. It's literally just a combination of a wrapping hook, which the wrapping hook I already showed you, is where I'm just wrapping and pulling to me, and a wedge. Right, so when I go to the reap right here, I want to wrap and pull to me, so I'm going to take my right heel and pull it as tight to my butt as I can, and then I'm going to take my foot and I'm going to wedge it underneath his ass like that. Right? Anytime I'm doing this situation right here, and reaping and using the wedge, his avenue of escape is also that direction, always. Right? This hole that exists right here, he's trying to get his knee line down through that and out to the mat. I have to take away this space completely. I'm going to do that as I'm going to activate my leaning structure. So I'm going to take this leg and I'm going to extend it and turn my knee as far into him as I possibly can. So I extend my leg, turn my knee into him, and then I retract. Right now, that space doesn't exist. All right, so when he tries to rotate and pull his knee out of that, it becomes very, very difficult. If he wants to do that, he's got to get this leg completely out and heist it out of the situation and turning his knee all the way down towards the mat. It still can be super difficult when you do that. When I'm more so lean, like directly up or back this way, this leaning structure is relatively okay when it comes to like just like strength of the mechanic. But the more I start to rotate this way, this mechanic starts to fail and it starts to open up more space. It's kind of strong. If he goes to push this down right now, really difficult. But if I turn my body this way, now he goes to push this down, like now he can create space. So we have to figure out a way to break the leg here without allowing my center line to start rotating this direction. And to do that, we simply just switch our grip. Right, so I was talking about it a little bit earlier. To be able to get the amount of torque I need to break his leg through rotation, I have to rotate a lot. Right, it has to be rotation this way. So if I just come here, I get everything right, and I get just a normal bite on his heel, he'll tell you he's not ready. I don't want you to try to rotate out of this like at all. Just like let me finish it. He's not going to tap until I get to like way over here on my side. I'm hearing him rotating to here. Well, obviously, if I go back to do the exact same thing right here, and now I tell him he can start to rotate with me. We're just going to rotate and rotate until he eventually unentangles my legs and frees his knee line. If he knows what he's doing, which most people do, it's pretty intuitive movement. I know that he's forcing my heel this direction and my knee this direction. If I just start pushing on his feet and continue to rotate that way, it's a pretty intuitive movement to get out of these type of things. Right, so I have to figure out a way to create enough torque on his leg to break it without continuing to rotate this way. And again, what I just showed you, none of that matters, right? Because I don't have to rotate to do that. I have this beautiful luxury of being able to use a fulcrum and lever his toes over it, right? But when I'm here, I don't have that luxury. Right? So when we get here, what I'm gonna do is, I like to refer to it as like a ratchet strap, right? Pulling out tension and switching my grip and getting a better grip on it. That's what a ratchet strap does, right? It pulls it until it's tight, and then it moves back up the line and gets a better grip on it and pulls it even more, right? That's exactly what we're gonna do on the leg right here. So as soon as I get my bite right here, again, pad of the toes and the foot, or pad of the toes and the armpit, I'm pinching these toes with my elbow. So when I come and get this first bite, super tight on the toes, with the thumb up here. And now, again, think of it like a ratchet strap. I'm gonna pull all the slack out of it without rotating. I don't wanna try to rotate really far over here and then take slack out of it. I'm gonna stay where I feel like my mechanics are really strong, which is where my hips face either slightly this way or up or slightly this way, right? I don't wanna be doing this and rotating this way and then trying to switch. I want to do my damnedest to keep my mechanics really, really strong here and just pull all the slack out of the leg first. So I take this first bite on the leg and pull it up as tight as I possibly can to my chest. I take out the slack and the racket strap down. Right? I come and I reach and I get a deeper grip on the leg. Right? And now I'm gonna get the tap on him before I get back to my center line. If I'm ever doing this and I get back to here and his leg's not completely fucking obliterated, you're doing something wrong. Something is wrong, right? Because it shouldn't. Right? If I come here and especially if you like, especially when you're drilling this, if I come here and I set in my mechanics like really deep like that, pull my heel to my ass and wedge it under his ass, and I extend my leaning structure, turn my knee into him, and pull back all of that right here, and pull my knees to my chest. This is really, really tight. I come here, I pull this as tight as I can, take out the slack, and then I switch my grip. There's no way I'm getting back to my center line. Right, I'm here, getting the tap. I could be here. You know what I mean? So that's why when we drill these things, we always go like 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 when we're applying pressure. It's never like skipping. I'm never like, I'm at 1% and I skip to 20%. I'm always going really slow on these things because maybe I could like, this feels pretty tight on the leg, right? Right? Maybe, now it's not, is it? Right? Did anybody notice the subtle difference right there? It's like really tight, not tight anymore, right? Say I'm not really tight on him, and I pull this and I get this reverse grip and I start getting to about right here, and then out of nowhere I fuck up and do something right, and I like kind of latch onto my mechanics. Maybe I was forgetting about it or something. It's like I just kind of lost this tension in my body. If I'm already at like 30 or 40% extension, and then out of nowhere I go, oh fuck, I wasn't tensioned right, or something like that, boom. Right? That's the kind of shit that happens. So it's like what we want to do to practice this safer in the gym is start with the leg mechanics, the things that are glued into place, tight with this, and now I go 1. So on and so on. Right? But again, just starting this straight off here. Again, the other foot should always be the other leg. I'm still seeing a little bit of this where you guys are tucking this foot under. It's a really bad habit right now. It feels comfortable. I know it's because like some people probably feel comfortable maybe because maybe they get attacked on their heel or something. They do this, like some people will try to grab your heel, but that's just nonsense stuff. This isn't gonna really protect you from that. And it's just kind of form mechanics. But anytime we're here, our foot's always gonna be over here. Anytime really just gonna grab his other foot and open up space and then sit up and pummel this foot to the inside. It's a really good way to drill this. To literally just be here, control of both feet. And I open up space. I'm gonna rock and sit up as I do this. I don't wanna do this. Right, this is really loosened. Again, that momentum of me falling back facilitates movement in this direction as well. If I was to like come here and reap and fall back, me falling back pulls in that direction. Don't do that. Create all this tension in your body immediately when you start reaping. If I'm here and I start reaping, I sit up and kind of like grab my own legs right here. Now I don't even have to have control of him. He tries to go anywhere here. It's like, he's not going anywhere. Right? And I can get control of his feet, activate my wedge and hook, heel to my ass, foot under his ass. I extend and turn my knee into him and pull it back. Controlling both feet. This is the ideal scenario for this. Because he can't even start to rotate and escape until I let go of his foot. And I can find my first bite without doing it. If I'm here, I can control this foot, set my mechanics, find my first bite with one hand, and now his only avenue of escape is as soon as I let go of this foot, he's got a heist out. Right? And what are the odds of that? By the time I get to here. As opposed to like, if I let go of this to find my first bite and started to try to do this, he's already pushing down my feet and trying to heist out. And I could have just had control of them the whole time. Now there's no way. All I wanted to is send it. And realistically, you're gonna have to at the highest level. Like, obviously nobody in here, like, I don't know what y'all's aspirations are. We're training in a gym and stuff. But to beat good people with this shit, it really is like, who's gonna rotate faster? Is it gonna be you or me? It's gonna be me, obviously. He has to get up and rotate against gravity. I don't. Gravity's in my favor again at this point. Once I get the bite, because I'm just falling. Right? He actually has to heist and get up and work against gravity. So you should always win that battle. If I'm able to get to here, and most of the times anyway, it's like, if I get to here, even if he is able to strip this grip and get that foot out, it's like by the time I'm here, it's like he might even already beat up a little bit and like ices the leg out, but again, it's like, who can rotate faster? Can he stand up faster than I can fall? Yeah. Makes sense? Questions? That's the foundation of what any guard is. Right? If he wants to pass my guard, what does he have to do? He has to split my knee elbow connection. There's no other way to pass my guard. If this is connected, then you can't pass my guard. And so this is the foundation of what the guard is having some sort of knee elbow connection. And this is basically all the guard is. The knee elbow connection that I'm connecting to one of your limbs. Right? And the simplest way that I can put this is that it's the beginning of most guard religion is getting an inside foot and connecting somehow. And it's why this guard is so dangerous is because when you attack with it, it's a lot of the times, especially with the way I use it, is that you're attacking through your retention. It's guard retention. Right? It's like he was to pass around on the side. Say we're in front of each other. Maybe I was on my back or whatever. He starts to step around to the side with his right leg. Like one of the first things that I'm going to do to start to try and recover my guard is what? Get an inside foot. Right? So I'm going to high leg over and get an inside foot and start to turn into him. And then the most basic version of this right here is that I simply just use this to lift my hips and start to face him even more. Right? Typically probably be a little bit more turned into me, and now I'm like both feet on the inside position. Right? But I could use it for other things. And instead of simply just using that high leg to retain my guard, I could also start to attack you. Okay? So say he wants to step around to the side, and again, it's like I'm here in whatever kind of scenario where he's gotten past my J point, my jeopardy line or something, and I start to put this leg in. This is the beginning of a creation of a side guard, where I have my shin connected to his shin. I've created a knee elbow connection in my bottom knee elbow, and I'm just wrapping and grabbing his leg with it. So I have an inside foot and outside foot and a wrap around his ankle. And preferably, like if I was just you don't see people as willing to approach guards as much these days at the highest level of competition because of this guard exactly, right? Preferably, I would like to get my elbow on top of his foot and then grabbing his Achilles right here. And then I'm just gonna set my knee on top of my own elbow and create a closed circuit connection against his ankle. And so if he was to try to go anywhere, move anywhere, run away from me or do anything like that, he kind of drags me with him, right? And again, notice how my elbow is laying on top of his foot. It's not. One, this isn't as good of a connection, and two, it stifles my movement. Because a lot of the movements that I'm going to do here are kind of like, they're not really inversions. I'm not like stacking my shoulders. Like all these moves you see me do from here, I'm not like going super like this. Like you definitely can in some of these movements. I try not to because it exposes the back. A lot of the spins and stuff that I do are flat back here, right? And then just kind of like shooting my legs up instead of like climbing on top of my own shoulders like this and inverting, which you definitely can. There's nothing wrong with it. I just definitely puts a lot of pressure on the neck and your in your lower back over time. I've been playing inverted for 15 plus years, and I really just try my damnedest not to do that these days. And I've kind of found a way around that, and that is spinning on your back and not your shoulders. And we'll get into some of that later. But again, a side guard, all a side guard is a knee elbow connection that I'm attaching to his ankle. Again, my elbow, when it sits on top of the foot and it's tucked in, now all of these movements are really easy. Without any connection to him or grips and stuff, which I can have all sorts of connection and grips on, I can use this elbow on the floor to push and start to bring myself into these situations where now I can like throw up and entangle his legs. As opposed to here, just a simple adjustment here. If my elbow's out, I'm kind of stuck. Can't really go anywhere. Right, so elbow on top of the foot, shin, and hand connected to his ankle. You're making this close circuit connection. And a lot of times we're using this false grip on the inside of the knee, and then a hook on the inside, which it doesn't have to be. I'll get into that later. But from here, there's really easy entries to this leg that I have 4 limbs attached to. Another advantage that I have is that I'm literally taking all 4 of my limbs and attaching it to one of his limbs. Right? And so I'm just going to show you guys how to enter the 411 from here by like spinning underneath. I could definitely just like shoot straight into a 411, like kind of like Connie Basami, or the Tim Planet system would call it like Jackie Chan. And I used to do this a lot, and there are definitely still scenarios where I will do this, where I literally just come here and I shoot directly into a 411 and start trying to sit people down. But the prettier looking spins and the prettier entries are when you're actually spinning to the inside. So how we're going to make that happen and how I'm going to make it the easiest for you guys to learn is by using this inside foot to grab the far side leg and kind of pull them to you. Could I make this spin happen from a big distance? I could be here and cover this distance myself. Definitely going to be a little bit harder. Takes a little bit more athleticism and understanding of like inverting, shooting your legs up and stuff. But you can make this entry work really, really well for you without doing any work whatsoever. You just got to grab the far side leg with your foot. Like, say he was even like leaned back a little bit more where that leg wasn't, his weight wasn't as far forward. I can just kind of come up onto my shoulder here and use these opposing pressures on the leg. So my elbow and my bottom connection is pushing his foot, and my top arm is going to be pulling his leg, as well as my left foot is going to be pulling his leg. And if I can come up onto my shoulder and pull him towards me, I can just throw my legs up into the figure 4 and be in the 411. Okay? And again, that could look a lot of different ways, depending on how you get them to move to you or not. If he doesn't move to me, I'm going to have to cover that distance myself. So say in a scenario where it's like I came to here and I start trying to pull him to me, it's like, well, I'm going to have to shoot and jump to him. It's going to take a little bit more athleticism, a little bit just more dexterity, just, like grappling skills to be able to cover distance. Like even if you're a day oneer here, like this move is relatively easy. All I'm doing is coming up onto my shoulder and pulling him towards me, and then extending my hips up and locking a figure 4. So elbow sits on top of the foot. I grab his ankle. I connect my shin to my fingers right here. I'm creating this closed circuit grip around his ankle. I come and I grab the inside of his knee, and now grab his far side leg with my top foot. And now here, I'm going to use all of these connections. If it takes you all these connections to be able to do that, that's cool. Eventually, again, you want to be able to get to where you can create these movements without this connection and this connection. You want to be able to just kind of spin through creating these pressures off of the mat with your elbow and stuff to help create this momentum. But from here, it's super easy to just make your side guard connection, grab the knee, grab his far side leg, and I'm going to come up onto my shoulder right here. And now I'm using all of my weight. I'm dragging him towards me with these grips. I come up, and now as my weight comes back down, all of that weight pulls him to me, and I can simply just throw my legs up and lock the figure 4 again the 4 level. We're gonna go through this one pretty fast. I'm gonna let you guys drill this for a little bit. So again, feel free to smart in this situation, you can literally just, me when we're grappling and he showed me his lead leg like this, I could at any time just pull in and grab this side leg. But it also could be a scenario where we're grappling or whatever and he goes past my guard and I put this foot in and start creating this connection. I could simply just use it to come back to the middle and retain guard. Or I could use it in a scenario where I'm attacking right off the bat. Makes sense? We're not going to drill this one for long at all. This is probably the most basic version of what I'm going to show. Cool. All right, 1, 2, 3. That was the 411. So now we're going to go to 50-50. And we're going to spend a lot of time on my actual shots, like how it goes off this cinching and stuff. But for now, I'm just going to show you like the most basic version of getting to the backside that you could do. So you guys are comfortable with it before I just go you into it. And it can be done just off of this same scenario right here. Anytime they stuff the inside foot, it basically forces you to the 50-50. You see this move a lot out there a million times in competition. It's a very natural response to me sticking my foot to the inside is for them to take that foot and just start shoving it to the mat. And you'll see that it naturally just moves me in the direction that I need to go to the backside 50-50. So if I was doing this and I started to put this foot in, and he takes his hand and he puts on my foot and starts stuffing my foot to the floor, he just rotates me towards the backside 50-50. Right, 411 is obviously my foot is at the inside like this. My left foot in this scenario. The 50-50 is when my right foot goes through. Right, so anytime I'm underneath and I get kind of at these types of angles, it's really easy for me to just go my right foot now and go all the way through the middle and lock the same figure 4. Right, so this is 50-50. That's the 411. They both have opposing bonds. The 411 really turns their knee away from you. I find that it's a little harder to find the hill right off the bat when you go to the 411. Because again, it's that same wedging hook that I showed you in the beginning of the wedge. Right, so when I enter, say in these types of scenarios, when I enter this way, it naturally starts turning this knee and his heel away from us. So say I pull him towards me and I do this, it's really easy for him to just start backstepping as we fall to the floor and his heel starts rotating away from me. It's really hard to catch the inside heel. Now obviously, I showed you the wedge. Anytime you're in the 411, it's the same mechanics as the wedge. I have a wedge and broken over your shoulder. When I'm in a scenario like this and you immediately turn his heel away from me, passes for a cross road. Now I'm in the wedge, and in the same position I'm just showing. You literally hit this entry and anticipating him to turn away from you, because naturally the way you enter and the way you put your mechanics in, it starts to turn his knee away from you, which is counterintuitive to what I really want. What I really want is to expose his heel right off the bat for the inside roll. So say you did do this move and right off the bat when I get here, he starts backstepping and turning away from me. I anticipate that and just pass it to the other side. And now it's really, really hard for him to escape. Instead of continuing to turn that way with him, to try and expose the heel for the inside roll, well, I just pass it across, and now it's avenues of escape. I'm not influencing his avenues of escape by trying to find his heel. You know, it's just already there for him. But again, that's the 411. This is the backside 50-50. Again, we will get into here in just a minute, where I don't ever have to really even try to put this foot in to go to the 411. I can just create scenarios where I can just spin right to the backside 50-50. But one of the easiest ways to kind of introduce you to the backside 50-50 from this guard is in this exact scenario. It's going to happen to you a million times, especially since you guys are all here. I'm sure you guys all train together. You're going to get here, and people's brains just tend to go to that. It's like they know that if I get this foot to the inside, this is bad for them. Like, oh, I don't just happens. So what do? Just stuff the foot to the mat. When he stuffs the foot to the mat, it just pushes you all the way through, and you can lock your legs in the 50 feet. Right? So one more time. Simple. Here, we're gonna do this. He stuffs the foot to the mat. Make sense?
Mm.
Cool. 1, 2, 3. Wait, let me use you a little bit longer. Now, I want you guys to think of this drill as like you would just like fundamental, like going into Ashitani drill. Like I'm here underneath him and I'm just throwing my hips up repeatedly. And I can switch legs if I wanted to. We're gonna start like this. So in that same grip, right? If I was facing him, it's the same grip, like this. I'm just gonna get you here, and just keep close to him. Spread his legs just a little bit, and if like, say you're not very dexterous and your partner doesn't have very long legs, and he's standing just kind of straight up and his knees are straight like this, it's gonna be a little weird. Then you really have to like force the bend in the knee and force the foot through the hole. But most of the time, when you're doing these things, people are in like a combat stance and they might have like even turned away from you already. So his knee's a little bent. So to make this drill easier, you can simply just have them go ahead and bend his knee just a little bit and turn to that inside. Right, now I can simply just be right here. We're gonna have this grip with the elbow on top of the foot, grabbing his Achilles. I'm gonna grab underneath his far side knee right here. Just a false grip. I'm just wrapping like the bit of his knee right here. And now I can repeatedly just come up and lock the 50 feet. Okay? You can just stay in this stance and I can just repeatedly just lock the 50 feet. Right, and now the whole point of like, we call these inside spins. Like when I'm spinning to the inside to expose, the whole point of it is to expose the heel immediately. And how we do that is based on this grip that we have set up in the beginning. The second I put my 50-50 hook in and start reaping, what happens is all of Clay's weight goes into his foot and on top of my elbow. Right? My elbow was on top of his foot. But the second I do this, and his heel comes up off the mat, now all of his weight is on top of my elbow. Right? So all I have to do here is simply just Superman this hand that's on his foot right here. And his foot falls right into my arm. Right? And I have an immediate exposure on this heel that I can grab the bike and start to get my grip. You could definitely do this same move with like an overwrap. Like say I like had an overwrap on his leg instead of my elbow being on top of his foot. So you don't really do it. Typically it's elbow on top of the foot, but there definitely are some scenarios where I'm here and I've overwrapped this leg and I spin to the inside, and now I'm in the same exact scenario except elbow is out here instead of here. These are both really good situations. I actually think this one is better. It leads to instant heel exposure and instant bite, but it's harder to enter with this grip because you got to get closer to him. I have to have like deep grips on him to be able to get here. And a lot of the times you see me hit these entries, you see me here on front on Austin and Sean and stuff. It's a lot more from a distance where I'm just like kind of out here and I just grab the foot and end up getting to here. So I end up here a lot to where exactly where I was just talking about, where now all of his weight rests on top of my elbow and I can simply just lift that elbow up off the mat and his foot falls right in my armpit. Now I have an instant bite on his foot. If I have an overwrap though, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna act like I'm trying to cut Clay's heel off with my elbow. His heel is glued to the floor right now. And if it wasn't, my elbow would pop right off of his heel. So the second his heel comes up off the mat by me reaping, so don't bump into anything, I was already creating this tension of acting like I'm trying to cut his heel off of my elbow like this. And so the second I reap his leg, it pops right in the force.
So there's two different scenarios where we're entering right here, and we have to find the bite. Both are very similar, but very different at the same time. This one, creating tension on the heel, right? If the floor's in the way, my elbow's not going anywhere. But the second his knee bends and his heel comes up off the mat, that's what happens. It pops into place. But for now, you can try both of those if you want to. But obviously, the one that's gonna correlate with what we're doing the most is this one where my elbow's on top of the foot. So if I'm just here, this is the exact same scenario. You see me hit this move from where I'm already like in north-south a lot of the times. It's just half of the move. Like the moves that I've already showed you were we're doing this and spinning to get underneath, whether it's I created all the momentum, maybe he pushed my foot down and created the momentum for me, it's all the same shit. If I was to just be here, me and Clay were grappling, and I just grabbed his foot, stand up a little bit, and I just grabbed his foot, it's just half of the move. Instead of spinning and throwing my legs up, now it's literally just throwing my legs up. I could just be here. Instead of one big movement of spinning and getting to here, it's literally just here. And it's a great place to drill this and get used to it. I might should have started you guys off with this. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. But I wanted to get you guys down with the movement before I introduce finding the bite. Because if I was to teach trying to find the bite amidst doing all the spinning and all the weird shit, then you're just completely fucking confused the entire time. Alright, so you get here, you get the grip. What do you think? Have them spread the legs a little bit and turn the knee down just a little bit for you. If you're like having those dexterity problems and length problems, this is gonna help you a lot. But sometimes you're gonna have to force it. Sometimes he might not have a bend in his knee, and like there might not be this big of space in between his legs. So when I pop up and do this, I have to really thread my foot through and create this lever on the hip. Think about it being a wedging hook, because it is a wedging hook. I'm pulling to me, wedging underneath his ass or underneath his hip right here, and reaping the leg. Reaping and turning his knee down, and it forces all his weight onto my elbow and my forearm. Now all I have to do is simply just extend and lift and find the bite. And you can get reps on this by like, I would start here and just get a bunch of reps that go into the 50-50. And then pushing him, getting all that weight off the floor, and exposing it all into your body. Just lock your figure four, pull your knees to your chest, and find the bite. Please, again, in this kind of situation, if I am like actively applying these mechanics on his knee, and I've got his heel, and especially if I'm rotating a little bit in, if Clay back steps right here, it's very, very bad. Right? That's how BJ Penn got broke off by Ryan Hall in the UFC many years ago. But just be careful with that. If you're in this situation, top player, please don't backstep and straighten your leg. You can definitely backstep here if I'm loose. Nothing wrong with it. Right? But if you're actively applying a submission right there, please do not backstep. Any questions? Cool, 1, 2, 3.